Welcome to Loud and Clear, a program geared toward the younger generations. You can listen in every Thursday at 7 p.m. or find the plug to our YouTube channel on kgtcradio.com.
Welcome to the program. I'm Carlos.
I'm Nathan.
And welcome to Loud and Clear. We have the pleasure of having with us the lady that does it all, Pastor Melanie with us.
No need to clap. Thank you. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Okay.
Okay.
Also, if you didn't know, Nathan and Melanie are one. They are married.
We are. We're one.
They are one.
We have been for 8 years. Isn't that crazy?
8 years.
Coming up on 9 this November.
Really?
Wild,
So, yeah.
Congrats.
How long have you and Ashley been married?
It'll be 8 years June 6th.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, we're right there.
Yeah.
It feels like 20.
Look at us youngins.
Yeah,
But not because it's been bad, but it just feels like we've been married forever.
Wait a minute. How old were you when you got married?
I was 18, almost on the dot.
When's your birthday?
April 6th. So like
What's your social security number?
Quite literally, I graduated Timothy House, and then I turned 18. Sorry, graduated Timothy House, and within like 2 months, I was married.
That
Dang.
brings peace to my heart.
Yeah, it was like
everybody
boom,
was
boom.
like, "You guys are so young." Blah blah blah. So that brings that thanks.
But like it's
Yeah, thank you.
done. I needed it. I think it's good.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
I constantly tell Ashley, like God knew I needed to get married
Yeah.
and have responsibility to be. Otherwise, I would have been.
100%.
I would have been a mess.
That's how I
Yes.
feel too.
Yeah, like I needed the responsibility. I obviously became a husband and a dad the same
Yeah.
day. And so I needed that responsibility. God knew that I needed that to ground me. And so I'm thankful. 8 years is a big deal. 9 years is a big deal. So that's super cool.
Yeah.
But I want to get into the thought or highlight of the week. And we have a pretty interesting one today. So
We kind of
Don't tune us out.
We hinted
Listen,
at
hear
this
us
last
out.
episode.
yeah,
Hear us out.
just hear us out.
It was a joke, but now it's kind of a serious thing.
So don't, if you're hearing this, and
don't
please don't
judge
judge us. This is constantly trending. This is always going. Like people are always debating this, and I think it's good that we talk about this. With that
From a
being
spiritual
said,
view.
it is. This is like as spiritual as it gets. So, Nathan, Melanie,
I'm here.
what is your guys' take on aliens?
So, believe it or not, we actually talked about this in the kitchen a couple days ago.
We did.
We did not get deep.
Well, I had.
Why don't you start?
Yeah. Because there was a podcast I was listening to, and I've heard this before. It doesn't. As Christians, we can get all spiritual about it and be all like, we're the only ones, and like blah blah blah. Like the Bible wouldn't make any sense if there were other worlds, but it doesn't say anywhere in the Bible that God didn't create another world with other people. I'm not saying that I believe it. I don't think that even if there was other creation out there, I don't think that we would intercept. Like I don't think
agree.
that they're.
Yeah.
I don't think that like I don't think it's little green people. Melanie said
Yeah.
that the other day.
Yeah.
I don't think anything like that.
They don't have hourglass heads. Well, maybe.
Yeah. But like scientists have discovered, I think it was like 47 habitable planets, and 15 of them are considered super habitable, and
That's
super
wild.
habitable is actually more habitable than Earth,
Wow.
That's so
than
wild.
our Earth. So we think we're so perfect and the best, right?
Yeah.
But there's actually 17 or maybe it was 7 other planets that they found that are more habitable than Earth are.
That's
that
crazy.
Earth is.
That's crazy.
Wild.
So it's nuts to think about. So the potential for life is there. Who knows if that's future potential? Like maybe God's got a plan. I think that we're kind of talking about like God and just like, that there would be maybe tasks for us in heaven, things like that. We don't know what expansion looks like in the kingdom
Yeah,
of God.
that's true.
Yeah.
We don't know if God had the desire to create Earth, why would he not have the desire to create other life, universes, things like that? So I just think don't put God in a box,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
Well,
all
and speaking
created
of
by
don't
God.
put God in a box, like, and maybe this is like too logistic of me. Maybe this is my dad's side coming out.
Sure.
But you think about like when the rapture happens, can we all fit in heaven?
Well, I mean,
Like,
it's a spiritual place.
I
so
understand.
Yeah, but
I understand. But like, I don't know. We don't know what it's going to look like now or later or what it looked like then, you know, and God is beyond time. And yeah, don't put God in a box. You don't know. I don't
Yeah.
think they're little green people. I don't see
No.
the purpose in us interacting with them, but I think they're out there.
Yeah.
Plus, I do think I agree. I don't think they're little green people that like come to Earth and abduct people. And
But they could be.
they could. I don't think they
I
are.
don't
And
think
here's
they
the
are.
thing.
Yeah.
I think that if there is other Earths and other people out there,
Mm-hmm.
it could it be possible that maybe they didn't fall like we did,
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
and so maybe God won't allow us to interact because if we did,
Yeah.
then we would cause them to fall. Now this could get
Yeah.
deep, but
Get deep.
I genuinely do believe that there is other life out there, and maybe they didn't fall. Maybe
That's
they
a really good
didn't
point.
eat
I
of
didn't
know,
think about
the-
that.
Could be another heaven. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like,
They
I
did
mean,
not
the Earth
partake
was
of the fruit.
the Earth's design and purpose was to be like a heaven.
Exactly,
You know, so
yeah.
you
Yeah.
just we don't know any of that stuff. The God that created atoms
Yeah.
and molecules and all these things that are completely like just so crazy. Science is insane, but
yeah.
it was all the things that they found and discovered was created by God, developed
Absolutely,
by
yeah.
God, thought of by God. And so it's like, if all those things were created and thought of by God, the opportunities, for the universe are crazy.
Yeah.
We don't know what God's purpose is, and we don't want to. I think that the enemy has corrupted. I know this is getting real spiritual, but the enemy has corrupted our view of like science.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we think of aliens, we think of that's like evolutionist.
Yeah.
You're thinking anti-God by thinking that there could be other creation, or you're thinking anti-God because they have potential to travel to other planets,
Yeah.
things like that. Well, it's like, no, if God has that plan, for all I know, our future could be Star Trek.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, God may want us to intersect and
I wouldn't be mad about
and
that.
travel at the speed, like you see all these things. I know that's really weird. I know that's extremely weird, and that's probably not God's intention. But we don't want to put God in a box.
No.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like the topic that we're going to talk about is we just keep our eyes on Christ.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And He takes care of the rest.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
think it's interesting. I think aliens are. I mean, it's always been a topic, and I mean, I don't know. You can get like very like crazy with it. I've heard Christians that believe just weird stuff. I've heard people say that they think aliens is something that the government really pushes because how do you explain the rapture?
yeah,
If you make a big deal of aliens and all of a sudden millions of people disappear,
that's true.
could you
Wow.
not say
That's a
that? Could you not say that it
great
was
point.
aliens?
Wow, that's crazy.
That's a great point.
Right?
Yeah.
Never
Because
thought
if
about that.
they bring proof, quote unquote,
Exactly.
to the table that there's aliens, and then the rapture does happen, they just
Then
they could just brush it
yeah,
under
they
the
could
rug.
just say it was aliens.
Yeah.
Wow.
And everybody would believe them. Why? Because they've pushed it so hard.
Yeah,
Right.
it's true.
And so I mean, you can get very crazy with it. I kind of like that idea. I think that's a pretty like
Yeah.
that's something Satan would do. He's a sneaky guy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I think
Sure.
implanting that into to just further what do you call it? I forgot the word. But to just further I'm so sorry. To just further deceive people.
Yes,
Sorry,
yeah,
good
yeah.
Lord. To just further deceive people about God, how easy it would just be like you said, to just be like, oh, it was aliens, and that's
Yeah.
why we
Yeah.
have millions of people.
Yeah.
We've been trying to warn you guys about these little green guys, and now half of the world is gone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But you never know. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's cool. These topics are always fun because you can
Yeah.
just think. But like you said, don't put God in a box. We can't even fathom God. I mean, think about a God that doesn't need time.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
God that doesn't, time is like nothing to him. He lives outside of those things because he created those things.
Yeah.
And so, how do you fathom? I think about eternity. How do you fathom eternity?
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
you can't.
Yeah.
You can't wrap your mind around. We're
Yeah.
gonna live forever one day,
Yeah.
and we won't die again. And
Yeah.
it'll just be our eternity will be with Christ. Those things are hard to fathom.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But now that we're done with aliens, which by the way, I enjoyed that. I think that was pretty cool. Our serious topic, this is part 2 of keeping your eyes on the prize, aka Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now more than ever, especially for young people going through middle school, high school, or maybe you're transitioning into adulthood, I think now it's more important than ever to really understand that how important it is to keep our eyes on Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, I know for me, coming out of middle school and high school, my eyes were not on Jesus. They were on everything but Jesus. They were on girls. They were on wanting to be popular and wanting to be cool and wanting to fit in and wanting to do all these things that I thought were going to bring me what I was lacking. And so, Nathan, what do you think about how important it is for teens to remember to keep their eyes on Jesus, as far as being in school and kind of having that pressure of fitting in, but also, you know, because I think a lot of people think, well, if you're a Christian, that means you're going to be a freak and you're not going to be liked and people aren't going to like you and you're going to be the weird kid eating lunch by yourself, you know, and those type of things. Yeah,
no, I think it's essential. I think that I remember back just to being in high school and I think that it is hard sometimes because you have to realize that if you are spending time with Jesus, you are seeking relationship with God. There's going to be some major benefits that come to your life, but there's also going to be some issues that you're going to face. And the benefits is that the things that bothered you before aren't going to bother you now. Yeah. You know, the things that maybe the insecurity, because your perspective changes when you keep your eyes on Jesus. You're focused on Jesus. You're not focused on what you look like. Yeah. And if you're not focused on what you look like, you can be definitely more bold for sure. But also not so filled with anxiety, not so concerned about if you have friends at the table, you know, because that's where I was. The closer I drew to Jesus, and the more I was just excited to spend time with Jesus, kept my eyes on Jesus. For one, another thing also, teen listening, God has a plan for you. Doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter what you've been through, doesn't matter what you think about yourself. And I don't even have to know you to know that God has a plan for you, like a deep plan for you. God can use anybody. And so for one, God has a plan for you. And so seeking relationship with God to know what that plan is. The first part of that plan is God's always in the business of making disciples, always in the business of getting people saved. So keeping your eyes on Jesus, for one, it's going to help you with that, but also you maybe are not going to fit in with the crowds that God doesn't want you to fit in with. You know, there's going to be people that are going to talk a certain way, act a certain way, and it's not healthy for you. It's not beneficial for you. But you keeping your eyes on Jesus, people will see it. They'll see that you're unbothered. They'll see that you're not concerned with what anybody thinks, and you're going to be the person they run to. The popular kid that talks a certain way that sometimes your flesh wants to be like, you're going to go home and you're going to battle with that. You're going to battle with it in school. But at the same time, if something bad happens in their life or something takes a turn, they're going to respect you, first of all, but they're also going to come to you. If you're approachable, if you're seeking God, you're going to possess the qualities of God. Man, there was times where I was at school and I was at a table all by myself, but I was content. And then there was times where I had tons of people at my table and they were just around me. You know, so it's like, but you're content either way. So that's just it's just so important. So important.
Melanie?
Well, I don't know if this is really the point of what we were talking about, but I was just thinking about school. And because I got saved when I was 17 and it was my senior year and I had just come out of partying and doing whatever. I went through pretty much every stage. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day about how at my school there wasn't really cliques, at least when I was in school. Pretty much everybody spent time with every quote unquote clique or group of people. And so there weren't really specifically the jocks and the band geeks and the emos and the whatever. We kind of all mixed and matched a lot. And so, but I mean, you obviously always had your weird kids, but I dabbled in every area. I was every single person at some point. Being the weird person now is nothing compared to what that felt like, you know, it's so different and it was so lonely. It was such a lonely life. And for the first couple years that I was saved, I had acquaintances, but I didn't really have a close friend. I didn't have anybody. The only person I had, which you're amazing, was Nathan. But sometimes you need a pal or you need a friend, or you're in school, you're used to this group that you would text or hang out with every single day, all night, you know, whatever. And to go a couple years and go through that transition of I'm alone, but I'm content. I definitely believe that we have relationships and friendships and people in our corner for a reason. And now I'm very blessed. I have a great circle. But at the time, I think God was using it to teach me that I can be content without the 20 people that are that I think are my friends, but they really weren't my friends. And I don't know, I was allowing myself to just fully be influenced by Jesus and not by anybody else. And that was a tough season. There was a kid that went to our school. They were their family was missionaries, and you know who I'm talking about. But
I sure do.
one of the older siblings, his name was Boaz, was in my class. And there were a couple lunch breaks. I think this might have been the first part of my senior year. So I was in a spiritual warfare, mental warfare, like knowing that I needed to turn to the Lord, but hadn't quite let go of my issues. And we started going to lunch a lot and spending our lunch break together because I did end up being alone. I didn't want to sit at the table with those people because I was getting tired of it spiritually. I didn't know it at the time. But I remember he told me on one of our drives, he just kind of vented to me about something he was going through with his brother. And then he said, Melanie, I don't know what it is about you, but there's just something different. And it makes me feel like I can trust you, like you're really here for me. And I was like, that's weird. I had never heard that before. But now I know that it was like me being the weird kid. The reason that I was different was because I was pursuing the Lord. Yeah, I was one of the few that was pursuing the Lord. There weren't very many kids, at least in my class, that were at least openly speaking about Jesus or openly Christian. Everybody was either closeted or not really there, going to church for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's a struggle, but it's worth that because the loneliness from then is just like unbearable. But even today in our struggles, we have peace that we could never otherwise experience.
Yeah, that's good. I think, the biggest thing about like serving God that we take for granted is how we can be so content with just Jesus.
Yeah.
Like you can, if you've never experienced true contentment, it's hard to explain, but you can have Jesus and feel like you have it all.
Yeah.
And you can have everything and not have Jesus and feel so empty inside.
Yeah.
And I think we've all been there. I think before coming to Jesus, we've all experienced always feeling like we needed more, feeling like we didn't have enough friends. We didn't have, there wasn't enough alcohol. There wasn't enough drugs. There wasn't enough pornography. There wasn't we were always needing more. And I think the greatest thing that you and I get from Jesus is that we can truly learn to be content with just him.
Yeah.
We can have Jesus and that's all we have, but yet feel so content with just him.
Yeah.
And knowing that we don't have to go outside of Jesus for anything else. Like anything that you and I need, if you're listening and you feel like you're missing something, anything that you need, you can get from God. If you need, the world offers you happiness and God offers you joy and God can offer you peace and contentment, and the world can't offer you those things. And it's why we try so hard to get these things, because what we're really missing is Jesus. My mom always told me growing up, Carlos, you have a Jesus-sized hole in your heart. And I was like, whatever, Mom. That's just what moms say. But it's so true. We're always trying to fill that void with something, and nothing can fill it until you meet Jesus. And then all of a sudden you're like, it's like the colors are brighter and the sky is more blue and the grass is greener than ever before, because it's like God is you've been missing something. And when you have Jesus, you have everything. Yeah. And it's just, it's a powerful experience. So if you're listening, Jesus is enough for you.
Yeah.
God can give you everything that you feel like you've been missing.
Yeah.
Anyways, with that, we're running out of time. But Melanie, I know you have a question for us this week.
I do. This is actually, I'm debating which question to actually ask because we had two of them and they're both kind of deep.
I like deep.
I don't know if we have enough time to unpack it. You know what I'm saying? But I'll go ahead. So this question, one of our teens asked, can Christians use trans people's preferred pronouns for the sake of building a relationship?
That's a great question.
Very good question.
I don't know about what you feel, Carlos, but I feel like you should never insult somebody intentionally.
Absolutely.
You know, even if it's wrong, even if, it's kind of absurd. Like, I think that you should never provoke somebody. It says in the Bible so many different times, and I know that this might be taken out of context a little bit, but Paul says, talking about how to live at peace with all men, to not only live at peace with all men, but also I have become all things to all men. Not that you're condoning it, but you're talking the language or whatever. Again, you're not trying to put your stamp of approval on it. But I think that there's ways to where I'd say trust God. I think there's ways to kind of avoid it and skirt it a little bit. You can, I would say, pray about it. But again, I would never intentionally insult people because there were so many people that claimed to be Christians in high school that were so insulting to people, just didn't care about what they were battling with, what they were struggling with. A lot, when I was in school, maybe it was homosexuality that was the biggest thing. And Christians that just didn't care and make fun of them, and just totally disregard what they're going through and what they're battling. And that's not what we're supposed to be like.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. I think, and I kind of think like when I talk to people, I don't really use their pronouns.
Yeah.
Like, I think that we make a bigger deal of things than we need to.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if you had to, like you said, kind of skirt around it, you can find ways
Call
to
them by their name.
Yeah. You don't have to use pronouns. I mean, I don't go to Nathan and I'm like, "What's up, man?" or like, "I know you're whatever." Like, I don't ask him for his pronouns. And I don't do that in a regular conversation. And I think sometimes when we meet these people that are transgender or they're still deciding or whatever, we get really nervous. I think as believers, because we know it's wrong. We know that they're deceived, and it's almost intimidating for us. And I think that before we even encounter them, there's already this voice of like, we're intimidated. We don't know what we're gonna do. We don't know what we're gonna say. But we're called to build relationships with people, and that's what Jesus did. And Jesus didn't call out. Very rarely do you ever see Jesus call out a sin. When I'm trying to build a relationship with somebody, my responsibility is to be there for them and to model Christ. And so, like you said, you don't ever be disrespectful and rude, but and I think even if you were to use their preferred pronouns, it's not saying that what they're doing is okay. It's not saying that I agree with you, but on a respectful level, God can use that, and I think them seeing, because I think what that movement needs to see is believers that can be respectful and can understand their side of the story. Because I think as believers, like you said, as the church has been so disrespectful to this group of people that they don't have respect for us believers. Because we have been so judgmental to them. We've been so hurtful to them. We haven't tried to understand them.
It's true.
And we haven't tried to understand them because we don't understand it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we do, because we understand the message of the cross. We understand that they didn't choose to struggle with what they struggle with. And I think because we know that they didn't choose that, I think that we can be graceful. I think that God can use us just being genuine and being loving and trying to be understanding. God can use those things.
And I get where using pronouns can be confusing to your personal convictions about the issue. I encourage a name. I encourage learn their name, because if you learn somebody's name, I think that's so impactful.
Absolutely.
Like, I think it's funny, or I think it's not necessarily funny. I think it's impactful how pastor, he always calls somebody by their name or a nickname or whatever, but it's always intentional. It's always like, I want to call you by your name. I think it's powerful. I think it's powerful to say that there's something personable when somebody says, "Hey, Nathan," to me or whatever, versus, "Hey, man," stuff like that. If we're buddies, I think that that's cool. I love that. But I don't know. There's just something about it. So I think I'd say don't even worry about necessarily the pronouns. I would say learn their name and call them by their name, even if it's the name that they want to go by. Because everybody can have a nickname. Just whatever. Just call them by the name that they want to go by.
It's not that deep. It's all surface.
Exactly.
Ultimately, you're just loving the person.
Yes.
And that's what's most important.
Be like Jesus.
Be like
Absolutely.
Jesus.
Anyways, we're out of time. Thank you for listening. We will catch you guys next week.